today. I know I've been coming on YouTube after some time because I had been unfortunately a little unwell and then a little occupied. But now I would assume that we can meet a little more frequently. So what we will do is we will start with the discussion on budget today. आज पहला सेशन करते हैं बजट का और कल दूसरा सेशन करेंगे. मैं नहीं चाहता था कि हमारी डिस्कशन कॉम्प्रोमाइज हो किसी भी तरह से. I did not want the discussion to be compromised in quality by any means. So I had decided that we will have two live sessions on budget. One will be now, which you are going through, and the second will be will be tomorrow, same time at 7 o'clock. तो दो सेशन में कंप्लीट करेंगे और कोशिश ये रहेगी कि इसको इस तरह से समझें कि हमें क्वेश्चंस किस तरह के पूछ सकते हैं यूपीएससी में. दैट इज माय मेन पर्पस. टू बी ऑनेस्ट टू यू, my objective is to reach out to all of you, my students, who can understand budget better and who can understand how to approach budget. You know, like when we talk about this whole idea, you know, when we discuss that, this whole idea of budget, you know, so the basic idea is to understand that how budget 22-23 will impact our basic preparation in UPSC examination. You know, that is the idea, that how budget basic preparation of 22-23 can be affected. You know, prelims, mains, उसके हिसाब से हमारी preparation कैसे होनी चाहिए, क्या क्या चीज़ों पे ध्यान देना है ज़्यादा, किन बातों के ऊपर ये ध्यान रखना है कि ज़्यादा stake रखें. You know, so wherever we should put more stress, wherever we should put less stress. Another is there is too much of data. Don't get washed up by that. बहुत सारा data invoice system में मत जाना. I don't think it helps you a lot. You know, if we go into too much of data system and data discussion, तो वो कभी-कभी क्या करता है कि हमें नुकसान ज़्यादा पहुंचा देता है. So please don't try remembering or mugging up all the data. Over today and tomorrow, whenever I will be discussing things, I will let you know what you should lay more stress on. आज और कल दोनों दिन जब मैं आपको पढ़ाता रहूँगा या बोलता रहूँगा, आपके साथ बातें करता रहूँगा, तो आपको थोड़ी कोशिश करूँगा ये समझाने की कि किन पॉइंट्स पे ज़्यादा स्ट्रेस करना है, किन पे थोड़ा कम स्ट्रेस करना है. So when we discuss budget 22-23, that will be our methodology. A very good evening to all of you. You know that you are here. And it's actually good to see you all, actually nice meeting you all. Just that there's one more thing. In case your question remains unanswered, then you can always reach me on the Next IAS website, or you can put your query and I will try answering it. Because I want to address you all first. मैं पहले चाहता हूँ कि आप लोगों को मेन बातें समझा दूँ और फिर आपके क्वेरीज भी ले लूँगा मैं. बट पहले कोशिश यही है कि आपको मेन बातें समझा दूँ इन बजट के अंदर जो चीज़ें हैं. एंड आई अगेन रिपीट, टुडे एंड टुमारो वी विल हैव 2 सेशंस ऑन बजट सो दैट वी कवर इट इन ऑल पॉसिबल स्कोप. इंटायरिटी में कवर कर सकें. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि कोई बात छूट जाए हमसे. सो वी विल कवर इट इन इंटायरिटी, covering over today and tomorrow. So, you know, so thank you all for having joined. A very good evening to everyone, and it's actually great interacting with you. You know, in the whole session, because I missed interacting on YouTube. मैं पिछले साल आपके साथ interact कर पा रहा था. पिछले 2-3 महीने से मैं थोड़ा out of sync हो गया था. So let's start off with the budget preparation. I thought that these 4-5 minutes should be sufficient when most of you would have been here. So a very good evening to all of you, and you know, this is great to have you all here. So let us see. See, first of all, when we talk about the budget, you know, जब हम देखते हैं अच्छा budget आया, तो budget के पहले आप सोचो ये budget आने के समय the issues फेसिंग द इकोनॉमी ये क्या थे, क्या वो मुद्दे थे जो हमारी इकोनॉमी को अफेक्ट कर रहे थे या कर रहे हैं. यू नो, व्हेन द बजट कम्स, व्हाट इज द बैकग्राउंड ऑफ द बजट. You know, if you ask me, this is what we are discussing, that what is the background of the budget. Budget का background क्या है, आखिर क्या situation था जिसमें ये budget आया, क्या हमारी हालत थी, क्या हमारी इकोनॉमी फेस कर रही थी, ग्लोबल इकोनॉमी किस सिचुएशन में थी. क्योंकि समझना आप एक बात, there is something very important that all of you should keep in mind as students of economics, that budget is a policy paper. So its main importance is not about what money is being spent or what money is being brought in. वो तो important है ही. Its main importance is that, what is the policy perspective of the budget. So when you look at it, what we are trying to understand is that budget is a policy paper. Budget सिर्फ ये नहीं बताता कि कहाँ से पैसा आ रहा है और कहाँ पैसा जा रहा है. Budget हमें ये जानने में मदद करता है कि पॉलिसी क्या बन रहे हैं. पॉलिसी पेपर addressing the issues, क्यों वो पॉलिसी बनाई जा रही है. That is why addressing the issues, that what are the policies and why those policies are being made. Like आज का सेशन जब मैंने प्लान किया तो मेरे मन में आप लोग ज्यादा थे जो मेरे स्टूडेंट्स हो, क्योंकि मुझे लगा एक ऐसा सेशन होना चाहिए जो पॉलिटिसाइज्ड ना हो. क्योंकि अगर आप कमेंट्स देखोगे तो अनफॉर्चुनेटली हमारा देश अभी इस तरह से विभाजित है. Unfortunately we are polarized to the extent that the comments also become at times politically loaded. But I did not want you to see that. तो मेरी इच्छा ये थी that we should have a discussion on the budget purely on the basis of its economy rather than any political economy added to it. So I'm trying to do that let's have a discussion on the basis of economic aspects कि भाई क्या economics के अंदर या इस economic system में workout करता है. तो यहीं से शुरुआत करते हैं that what are the issues facing the economy, what was the background of the budget when the budget was presented. And those issues facing the economy, the backgrounds are very well highlighted by economic survey also. So 2-3 things that I want you to keep in mind when I discuss with you the issues that we talk about facing the economy. So, the first thing that you can keep in mind per se, the first thing that we can keep in mind per se is one, the issues facing the economy. I'm just getting rid of this so that we can create, again go back to the same space that we had created. So, when we talk about the issues facing the economy, first was the slowdown and the recovery that we were having. The economic aspects of it, that what was the slowdown and what was the recovery as an economic aspect of it. So one was recovery in the economy after pandemic. And with third wave, that is the wave due to Omicron, active. Third wave active है Omicron की वजह से, तो उसके बाद क्या इकोनॉमी फेस कर रही थी. So remember again that if we take 2020 March, then the real GDP was $145 billion. That was 2020 March. That is where we 145 lakh rupees. I'm sorry. So 145 lakh rupees is where we found our real GDP. This was 2020 March, that we had something like rupees 145 lakh crore as our real GDP. और कोविड आया और कोविड ने हमें धक्का दिया और ये रियल जीडीपी कम हो गई. By March 2021, this real GDP came down to around 134 lakh crore. I'm assuming that real GDP is understood by us that is GDP after adjusting for inflation. And then when we talk about March 2022, when we talk about March 2022, the real GDP came back to, that is expected, this of course is projected, अभी हमें पूरी तरह नहीं पता, but अभी जो advanced estimate आए, it will be around 147 lakh crore. And that is why people are claiming that it is a V-shaped recovery. That is why people are claiming that it is a V-shaped recovery. Ab socho, 145 lakh crore coming down to 135 lakh or 134 lakh crore and then going up to 147 lakh crore. तो इसीलिए इसको V-shaped का नाम दिया जा रहा है. But another fear that we are having, that is the V-shaped recovery, that GDP level coming down, going up. Another fear that people are having in the economic system is that this may be a V-shaped recovery, but this recovery can be where people at the top income level might be growing very fast and people below a given level of income might actually be declining in their system. कुछ लोग जो upper level of income पे हैं, उनकी income तो बढ़ रही है, but कुछ लोग जो lower income level पे हैं, उनकी income कम ही होती जा रही है. इसीलिए इसको कह रहे हैं K-shaped recovery. अब इसको लेके debate चल रहा है. We don't have data with confirmation at the moment, but certain circumstantial evidences are being used to suggest that we are having a K-shaped recovery. That when we talk about it, K-shaped recovery is the basic purpose that people have talked about. अब ये हो रहा है या नहीं हम पक्का नहीं है, क्योंकि कुछ लोग कह रहे हैं कि गरीबों की हालत बुरी हो रही है, कोई डाउट ही नहीं है उसमें, that COVID has been bad for the poor, people have lost jobs, people have lost income, people have gone back into poverty because of the hit of COVID. But whether the recovery is broadly K-shaped, that is whether everybody in the lower income group is doing badly, at the moment the proofs will have not been there. Like agriculture has grown around 3.6% and 3.7% in the last 2-3 years, which means many in the poor system are still doing well with due to agriculture doing well. तो ये हो सकता है कि प्रधानमंत्री गरीब कल्याण अन्न योजना, प्रधानमंत्री गरीब कल्याण योजना in total, the PM Kisan Yojana, then Swanidhi scheme for street vendors, all these may have played a role. So we don't know, but the suspicion is that we may have a K-shaped recovery. So it was expected that the budget might do something for this K-shaped recovery. That is point one, that recovery in the economy after pandemic. V-shaped, okay, the data can support you, but K-shaped, we don't have the data, and do we want a K-shaped recovery? The answer is no. कोई भी ऐसा recovery नहीं चाहेगा कि जहां आपके income level अमीरों की तो बढ़ जाए, गरीबों की कम हो जाए. Nobody would like that recovery. So the policy making has to be conscious that we don't only think about V-shaped recovery, we should also be careful that we don't let the K-shaped recovery hurt us. तो एक ये एक्सपेक्टेशन था बजट से कि थोड़ी कोशिश होगी कि के शेप्ड रिकवरी रोकी जा सके, गरीबों के लिए क्या किया जाए इसमें, इस पर कोई बात हो. That was one thing, that what can we do so that the poor can be uplifted and the hit of COVID can be restricted. The second thing that we are looking for, that is the second thing that we have to take care of. The second thing that we are looking for, yeah, a very good evening, all of you who are coming in. I'm so happy to see you all here. So the second thing that we are looking for, or we were looking for in this budget, was that the advanced estimates of, the advanced estimates of GDP had a very sobering, suggested one decrease in consumption, and consumption is still around 3% below pre-pandemic level. consumption is still around 3% below pre-pandemic level. So this is another challenge we were having, that before the pandemic, consumption was around 3% below the pre-pandemic level, even in 2021-22 by the end of it. तो ये expected है कि 2022 के मार्च आते हुए भी consumption जो होगा, consumption मतलब जैसे मैं और आप खाना खरीदते हैं, कपड़े खरीदते हैं, घर का किराया देते हैं, ये सारा कुछ consumption में आता है. The money we spend for our food, our clothes, our car, our television, our bicycle, तो अपनी साइकिल खरीदने के लिए, गाड़ी खरीदने के लिए, खाना खरीदने के लिए, कपड़े खरीदने के लिए, इन सब के लिए जो पैसे हम खर्च करें, हाउसहोल्ड का मतलब होता है इंडिविजुअल्स, मेरे आपके जैसे लोग. So people like you and me, the individuals, the money they spend for their own consumption pattern, जो अपने खरीदने के खर्च करने के लिए लोग खरीदते हैं, वो कंजम्पशन होता है. और इंडिया में कंजम्पशन जो है, it is 55% of India's GDP. So we are a heavily consumption driven economy, and this consumption had come down 3% below pre-pandemic. And apart from decrease in consumption, the other thing suggested by the advanced estimates was less pickup in private investment. अब सरकार इतने सारे लोन दे रही है पिछले 2 साल से, so much of loan given by the government in the last 2 years, but we still see that there is less pickup in private investment. So this private investment is only 2.7% above pre-pandemic. तो पिछले 2 सालों में almost ये वही है जहां था. This private investment मतलब firms buying, creating factories, buying new machines. तो जब कोई कंपनी फैक्ट्री बनाती है, नए मशीन खरीदती है, बिल्डिंग बनाती है, उसे प्राइवेट इन्वेस्टमेंट कहते हैं. So private investment is commodities created by private sector for further production of goods and services. So when suppose the camera that I am talking to you in, it's a private investment by Next IAS Institute. This board that I am talking to you is a private investment by Next IAS. So private investment ज़्यादा होने का मतलब आपके प्रोडक्शन करने की क्षमता बढ़ रही है. उत्पादन क्षमता बढ़ाने का मतलब होता है कि आपका जो प्राइवेट इन्वेस्टमेंट है वो बढ़ा. But private investment increase, which was expected to increase our output levels, again 2.7% only above the pre-pandemic point. So that means consumption had not reached back. The consumption level that we have has not reached back. So decrease in consumption, and this is bad. ये बहुत बुरी सूचना है हमारे लिए, because consumption is low suggests that the economy needs much more support, and private investment low, which means the expectations among people, जो आपके private businessmen हैं, आपके व्यापारी हैं, उत्पादक हैं, उनके अंदर अभी भी ये confidence नहीं कि वो ज़्यादा production करने की कोशिश करें. So investment has still been low. Investment has been low because they are unable to utilize their existing capacity. तो जितनी machines हैं, जितनी factory हैं, अगर वही पूरा use नहीं हो रहा, तो नई तो लगाएंगे नहीं. So they are unable to use their existing capacity. The global wave has still not started up. Supply side restrictions are there. Inputs are not available on time. So there are various issues, but one big issue is negative sentiments, believing that we may not get enough tomorrow. The demand may not pick up. So a lot of shouldering is done by the government expenditure. आपकी economy 3-4 चीजों पे निर्भर है: consumption, investment, government expenditure, and net exports. These are the 4 things that contribute to aggregate expenditure in the economy. These are the 4 things which contribute to aggregate expenditure in the economy: consumption, investment, government expenditure, and net exports. So government expenditure has to do a lot of shouldering here. This is what is happening. So this is one again thing happening that we wanted to see. हम ये देखना चाहते थे कि बजट क्या करता है इन चीजों को बढ़ावा देने के लिए. Then there was another challenge that we saw in the budget. The third perspective: increased level of unemployment and lack of social security for workers in the unorganized sector. That was another thing that we are struggling with. Increased level of unemployment and lack of social security for workers. See, increased level of unemployment, well, we have record unemployment at the moment. Again, COVID is a factor. Lack of economic recovery was a factor. So remember, when we say increased level of unemployment, till 2014, the unemployment rate on an average, on an average, mind you, would be around 5%. And by 2017, this unemployment rate had increased to around 6%. And post-COVID pandemic, we are hitting around 8%, which is the worrying part, because on an average, India's unemployment has been between 4% and 5%. तो on an average, हमारा unemployment 4 से 5% रहा है, लेकिन अभी पिछले 2 सालों में ये 8%, 10% के आसपास घूमने लग गया, which is a worrying factor. And that also, remember, when we consider asking people about how they were unemployed in the last whole year, अगर हम इसको थोड़ा और stringent बना दें, तो number of unemployed starts becoming much higher. So that again is a trouble part that we see in our economy. And then there is another thing, that is scope to attract investment due to global system thinking about China +1. अब ये China +1 में +1 हम ही होने की इच्छा रखते हैं, that we want to be that country which can attract investments coming out of China. So this is another thing that has come in, that scope to attract investment, क्योंकि global investors China से बाहर जा रहे हैं बहुत सारे. Many investors are leaving China due to various reasons again. One reason is that the Chinese labor is becoming costly. Another reason is the differences China is now having with United States, and that means many companies are leaving it. Japan is promoting its companies to leave China. So how can India attract these companies? So these are the major issues that we were facing, both inclusive growth issues and efficiency issues. ये कुछ major issues हम हमें फेस करना पड़ रहा था, जो इंक्लूसिव ग्रोथ के रिलेटेड भी था, और साथ में that is inclusive growth in the sense poverty alleviation, making people better off, and along with that efficiency related, that is how to increase your GDP, how to improve the economic system. So budget was presented in the background of all these events happening around us, constantly affected by COVID, employment suffering, consumption suffering, investment suffering. All these things were happening around us. And then of course going for a system where how to attract global investors to come to India, create employment, and so on. So majorly, again I repeat, majorly the idea is how to make India comparatively better developed and how to make sure that everybody grows along with that. Growth हो और inclusive growth हो, विकास हो और सबका विकास हो. यही हमारे लिए सबसे ज्यादा चुनौतीपूर्ण बात है अभी के लिए. ये आज के भारत के लिए सबसे बड़ी चुनौती यही है कि सिर्फ विकास से काम नहीं चलेगा. तो हम ये नहीं कह सकते कि विकास दर बहुत ज्यादा है और हम दुनिया के सबसे ज्यादा फास्ट मूव करने वाली इकोनॉमी है. इससे काम नहीं चलेगा. We cannot take solace by saying that we are the fastest growing economy of the world. We will also have to make sure that that fastest growing economy is also treating its own people well. अपने लोगों को अच्छा ट्रीट कर रहे हैं, वो ऑक्सीजन की कमी से नहीं मर जाते, या नौकरी की कमी के मारे परेशान नहीं है, या भूखमरी नहीं सह रहे. All this is important, that hunger is not there, health is there, education is there, employment is there. That is inclusion idea. So now that means budget has two general perspective. It means that budget has two general subjectives. Okay, yes, Aditi, PLFS is the source and 4 to 5% is the idea of natural rate of unemployment. You know? So thank you for asking these questions. In case there is something, again I repeat, that you cannot get through, you can always ask me on a later platform. I'll give you the opportunity to ask me. Now see, when we take the story further, see, the budget is expected to do two things. The budget is expected to do, so budget as a policy statement and as डिमांड मैनेजमेंट टूल. आप समझना इस बात को, बजट के ये दोनों ही काम होते हैं. एक काम होता है बजट का कि वो पॉलिसी स्टेटमेंट देता है, एक काम होता है बजट का कि वो एक पॉलिसी स्टेटमेंट देता है. ठीक है, जो से हम कहते हैं स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ द इकोनॉमी. सो देयर आर टू थिंग्स एवरी इकोनॉमी नीड्स. वन इज structural management and another is cyclical management. Budget has to do both these things. Budget जो है वो ये दोनों काम करता है, structural management भी करता है और cyclical management भी करता है. The budget does both these things, that is structural management and cyclical management. Both of these things are done by the budget. Structural management means the policy, address that the budget gives you. How to give policy address. For example, when you say structural management of through the budget, legal structure, कानून बनाता है बजट के थ्रू बनाती है सरकार. तो कैसे कानून बनाती है? जैसे इसी बजट को ले लो, सरकार ने कहा हम कानून बनाएंगे जिससे कि आप जो है वो इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स को प्रमोट कर सको बाय टेकिंग इंटरऑपरेबिलिटी, कि आप अपने बैटरी एक्सचेंज कर सको, और हम बैटरी एक्सचेंज का लॉ लाएंगे, वो कानून बनेगा. हम इंसॉल्वेंसी एंड बैंक्रप्सी कोड का कानून ऐसा बनाएंगे ताकि इंटरनेशनल इंसॉल्वेंसीज भी रिजॉल्व हो सके. So budget talks about legal structure, that we will make rules such that international insolvencies can be resolved, such that electric vehicles can be promoted. Not only electric vehicles, also we will make rules. That is what the government tries doing in the budget. So मैं इस budget का example दे रहा हूँ, legal structure. The government says we will try making rules such that it becomes easier to do business in India. तो legality को ठीक करना, legal structure. Other than that, administrative structure, making tax laws easier, collection of tax easier, payment of tax easier, making it convenient for people to report their income, making it convenient for departments to spend the money. जैसे गति शक्ति के ऊपर ध्यान है इस बजट में बहुत ज्यादा. तो गति शक्ति में क्या करेंगे सोचो, 7 मोड्स को जोड़ने की बात कर रहे हैं ना. अभी सिखाऊंगा मैं आपको वो बातें और भी. We'll go into details of that also. But what does गति शक्ति suggest? गति शक्ति is about road, railway, ports, airport, logistics, waterways and the mass transit system. 7 चीजों को एक साथ लाए और उसके ऊपर डिपार्टमेंट्स को इकट्ठा करेंगे, और सारे डिपार्टमेंट्स एक साथ जब निर्णय लेंगे तो जल्दी वो निर्णय लिए जाएंगे, तो जल्दी उनके ऊपर इंप्लीमेंटेशन होगी. 7 different sectors but interconnected. Road, railway, airport, port, waterways, logistics and multimodal transport or mass transit system. So bringing them all together, which are interconnected, so that faster decision making can be done. So that is another administrative structure that you try working upon. So that is structural management, a legal structure, an administrative structure. That how do you make sure that these things happen better? Also, in the budget, you can talk about economic structure. Economic structure like focusing on green energy or green source of energy so that your environment system can remain better. economic structure like making sure more people can be attracted with good education so that you can reduce the dependence on agriculture, making sure that your economy gets modernized and uses new type of technology. तो ये जितनी चीजें हैं ये भी बजट का एक हिस्सा है, प्रोडक्टिविटी एनहांसमेंट। तो ये स्ट्रक्चरल मैनेजमेंट है। तो स्ट्रक्चरल मैनेजमेंट होता है आपके रीढ़ की हड्डी। जो स्ट्रक्चरल मैनेजमेंट है वो आपका स्पाइनल कॉर्ड है, वो आपका ब्रेन का सिस्टम है जो आपको चलाएगा आगे, जो आपको एनर्जी देगा, जो आपको सिस्टम बनाएगा जो ज्यादा चले। For example, when an economy has a good structure, then the capacity of the economy to sustain high growth rate and include more people in it will be higher. जब एक अर्थव्यवस्था का जो मूलभूत ढांचा है वो अच्छा होता है तो उसकी जो क्षमता होती है सभी लोगों को उसके अंदर अनुग्रहित करने की और साथ में जल्दी से जल्दी अपने सकल घरेलू उत्पाद को बढ़ाने की वो ज्यादा होती है। When an economic system has a good structure, it has a much better possibility of being inclusive and growing fast. So that is structural management through these. So budget tries doing that. And cyclical management is to assure that economic recession, अगर आपका GDP गिरने लग जाए, that is fall in GDP, or slow down, that is fall in growth rate of GDP, can be restricted. तो आप कैसे करोगे ऐसा? इसे कहते हैं, ये करने के लिए आप फॉलो करते हो एक्सपेंशनरी पॉलिसी। जब आपको अपने जीडीपी को बढ़ाना होता है, अगर आप देख रहे हो कि आपकी इकोनॉमी में रिसेशन है, जैसे हमारे यहां पिछले साल आ गया था, 2020-21 was a year of recession when India's GDP went down. I told you in the beginning of the class. And 2021-22 was a year when GDP bounced back. So what we needed is to make sure that we have some expansionary policy. That was the cyclical management expected from the budget. Expand the system. And what can be this cyclical management in the budget? If you can reduce the tax and if government can increase expenditure, then that is called expansionary policy. That if taxes can be reduced and if expenditure can be increased, then you can have what is called the expansionary policy. आप जब बजट बनाते हो और एक्सपेंशनरी पॉलिसी रखते हो, मतलब टैक्स कम करो ताकि लोग खर्च ज्यादा करेंगे, उनके हाथ में पैसे ज्यादा बचेंगे। गवर्नमेंट अपने खर्चे बढ़ाए ताकि मार्केट में डिमांड बढ़े। जैसे सरकार मान लो अपने खर्चे बढ़ाकर स्टेशनरी खरीदे, सरकार अपने खर्चे बढ़ाकर पॉवर्टी एलिविएशन के लिए पैसे दे, मनरेगा पे पैसे लगाए या इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलप करे। तो जब सरकार खर्च करेगी तो सरकार का खर्चा किसी और का इनकम बनता है। तो दैट इज द बेसिक आइडिया बिहाइंड इट, दैट गवर्नमेंट कैन गो फॉर दैट एक्सपेंशनरी पॉलिसी। सो बजट इज मेंट टू डू बोथ स्ट्रक्चरल मैनेजमेंट एंड साइक्लिकल मैनेजमेंट। Budget is expected to do both structural management and cyclical management. Now, in the last 30 odd minutes, I have tried telling you what is the perspective in which budget has been brought up. Now we will try discussing whether the budget has been able to resolve all of these or not. Now we will try understanding that what is the method by which budget will try resolving an issue. What is the method by which the budget will try resolving the issue and to what extent they have been able to resolve it. The method of how the budget will try resolving the issue and to what extent they will try to resolve it. Just because I saw some of your questions on the portal. First is that yes, these classes are meant for the purpose by which we will try solving all your problems on budget so that you don't have to do budget after this, both mains and prelims. I am also creating multiple choice questions and you will be able to get those multiple choice questions on the Next IAS portal. You know, we will make sure that you get it. I am creating those questions. By next week you will get them, around 25 odd questions, multiple choice questions to cover the budget. So you will get them. The lecture will give you a complete overview of the budget. You won't have to do anything else. Inka purpose hi yahi hai. Second, whatever I am saying in English, all my friends who do not, in Hindi, I'm sorry, all my friends who do not understand Hindi, don't worry at all. Whatever I am saying in Hindi, I will be repeating it in English, and I am repeating it in English. So don't worry at all. You know, I will make sure that there is nothing that you are left over with. Okay, so I hope that I addressed the two questions that you asked me, and I thank you again for being here. It's actually lovely interacting with you, you know, in this manner. So coming to this now, you know, when we talk about things further, you know, we would say that how does the budget try achieving it? So now see, I discuss it with you like this. So now we come over to a discussion where budget 22-23 as a solution to these. And what are the problems then? So again I repeat, today and tomorrow we will try attaining an idea, you know, 2 hours each. Today, as some of you ask me how much length I've kept for these classes. So normally 7 to 9 is in my mind, and today and tomorrow we will try covering these entire ideas, talking on all facets of the budget. So for the criticism of the budget, you will have to wait till tomorrow, because there I will tell you what all are the misses in the budget. Some points I will tell you today, but some more points I will tell you tomorrow, that where does the budget unfortunately not meet some of our requirements. And of course some parts I will tell you how it meets us. Now see, from mains point of view, and prelims point of view, you should cover budget with a perspective. I mean, if you have been my classroom student, you would have heard me saying this in the class also. So first of all, the first perspective with which you should, you know, understand it, the first perspective with which you should understand it is what are the basic ideas mentioned. So the finance minister said that we are entering into a zone of 75th year to 100th year. You know, she called it Amrit Kal. You know, hum sab log Amrit Kal mein aa gaye. So she called it Amrit Kal. Amrit Kal as in that it's the elixir of life that we will try giving the economy. And that Amrit Kal has been said to be about, so this is elixir of life time period. I'm sorry for a very crude translation, but you know, few things cannot be translated so easily from one language to another. But kind of best time period, optimum time period is what the finance minister talks about. So Amrit Kal is about 75th year of independence to 100th year of independence. You know, 75th year of independence to 100th year of independence, and she started her budget speech talking about it. She said that we are entering the Amrit Kal and we have some goals regarding that. That is, focus on growth and inclusive welfare. You know, that is one objective. So for this Amrit Kal, she defined these objectives. Now these objectives from your exam point of view become important. In the prelims exam, they will not ask you about the Amrit Kal, don't worry, but they will ask you the 3 main objectives of the budget. You know, that is how they ask you questions at times, that what can be the 3 main objectives of the budget. So when you look at it, first is focus on growth and all-inclusive welfare. You know, that is the first objective that has been suggested. Focus on growth and all-inclusive welfare. जिसकी चर्चा मैं अभी आपके साथ कर रहा था. Right now I was talking to you about this, that the focus has to be that सकल घरेलू उत्पाद बढ़े, जल्दी बढ़े, और सबका साथ और सबका विकास हो. You know, but that is the challenge, that सबका विकास हो रहा है या नहीं, ये हमें देखना पड़ेगा. That are we able to actually develop for all or not? That is the that is the first talk that comes in. Then it also says that promoting technology-enabled development. So focusing on technology, promoting technology-enabled development. That is the second objective that the finance minister mentioned. That means focusing on development using efficiency. अब ये समझो, technology enabled मतलब joblessness हो जरूरी नहीं है. It is not necessary that technology enabled has to mean joblessness. Technology enabled means that you are talking about development in such a manner that you promote efficiency among your people, train them in using the new modern technology and allow them to be big achievers. That is productivity enhancement. That is the key. Productivity is your capacity to produce, and if your productivity is high, then definitely your income levels will go high. So that is another objective set in the budget. And then she said that we will create a virtuous cycle of private investment attracted by public investment. The word used is crowding in. Attracted by public investment. The word used is crowding in. Virtuous cycle of private investment attracted by public investment. I see again a question from you that if consumption is decreasing, can we say that there is increase in poverty? Well, it may or may not happen, but you can suspect that. You can suspect that. Many of you are asking me about economic survey discussion. We will be conducting it from next week. We will be conducting the economic survey discussions from next week. So kindly wait for a week more, and I will be doing it with you surely. Now see. Going back to this point, so we say focus on growth and all-inclusive welfare, promoting technology-enabled development, and virtuous cycle of private investment attracted by public investment. These are the three basic objectives that we are looking at. These are the three basic objectives that we are looking at when it comes to the statement made in the budget. How does the finance minister propose it? तो फिर मैं याद दिला दूं तुम्हें, सवाल प्रीलिम्स में हो सकता है 3 ऑब्जेक्टिव्स क्या हैं. The question in your prelims exam can be, what are the 3 basic objectives of the budget? And you can use these objectives while writing your introduction in the mains exam. If you are writing any answer in the mains exam, you can always write an introduction using these objectives that the budget, or as stated in the budget, the government is trying to achieve, and this, so if it matches it, then this can be utilized. So this way you can use your methodologies. Let's see further. How does the finance minister propose she will achieve it? So she says that there will be 4 priority areas for her policy this year. The finance minister says that there will be 4 priority areas for her policy this year. Now what are those 4 priority areas? Okay, I see some of you asking me what is the virtuous cycle of private investment. What is the virtuous cycle of private investment? The idea is very simple. The virtuous cycle of private investment is that if you invest more, since you ask me, और मैं आपको कैसे मना कर सकता हूँ शुभम, तो आप देखो जब आप कहते हो virtuous cycle of private investment, the meaning is more investment, और investment का मतलब क्या होता है? Capital formation, capital goods creation. So more investment means more production capacity, and more production capacity will mean more GDP or gross domestic product, and that can improve standard of living. Standard of living improves, allows people to save more, and when people save more, there can be more investment, and this cycle can continue. That is the virtuous cycle of investment, private investment. So the virtuous cycle of private investment is more investment, more production capacity, more GDP, standard of living improves, people save more, and then more investment. So that is your capital formation giving you growth. एक बार आप investment करने लगो तो आपके private investment बढ़ेंगे, employment भी बढ़ेगी, लोगों का income बढ़ेगा, तो लोग और खर्च करेंगे, उससे private investment और बढ़ेगा. You know, if people get employed, as income earning rises, then people will spend more. That will encourage firms to invest even more. That is virtuous cycle of private investment. And how do you attract it by public investment? Keep listening, this is important. You attract it by public investment. That is one big objective in this year's budget. That is what you call crowding in. You know, this attracting it by public investment, this term, attracting by public investment, we use a word for it, crowding in. That is, government will create good electricity support, road transport support, storage capacity support. All this will encourage private sector to invest more because of a simple reason that if government creates these support, then cost of doing business becomes lesser for the private sector. अगर मैं एक प्राइवेट कंपनी हूं और सरकार मेरी इलेक्ट्रिसिटी का सपोर्ट अच्छा कर देती है, रोड अच्छे बने हुए हैं, स्टोरेज कैपेसिटी डेवलप्ड है, कम्युनिकेशन नेटवर्क एस्टैब्लिश्ड है, तो मेरे खर्चे जो इन चीजों को खरीदने पे लगते थे वो कम होने लगेंगे और मेरी प्रोडक्शन करने की क्षमता बढ़ने लगेगी और तब मैं ज्यादा प्रोड्यूस करूंगा, ज्यादा इन्वेस्ट करूंगा. सो इफ गवर्नमेंट इन्वेस्ट्स, इफ देयर इज पब्लिक इन्वेस्टमेंट इन रोड, railways, storage, electricity, reducing logistical cost, promoting communication, then that will reduce cost of doing business, and as it reduces the cost of doing business, it will result in promoting more investment from the firms. That is the idea of virtuous cycle of private investment attracted by public investment. Now, when you look at this, when you look at this per se, we talk further. So that is your idea of Amrit Kal and these three objectives issued by the government. Now how does the government go back to it? Please understand this now. तो सरकार क्या चार तरीके बोल रही हैं? सरकार ने बोला हमारे चार priority parts हैं. You know, so government says that we will try achieving it through objectives to be achieved. Objectives to be achieved through four priorities. जो objectives हैं उन्हें अचीव किया जाए चार प्रायोरिटीज से. क्या है ये प्रायोरिटीज? पहला, गति शक्ति. So this was again something announced by the Prime Minister in his Independence Day speech, गति शक्ति. तो प्रधानमंत्री जी ने ये इंडिपेंडेंस डे स्पीच में बोला था कि ये सरकार लाने वाले हैं और सरकार ने इसके ऊपर काफी बातें कही हैं. तो अभी फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर इज सेइंग दैट अंडर गति शक्ति दे विल मेक इट अ सिस्टम वेयर all holistic infrastructure development will be done, especially with respect to multimodal transit system. So Gati Shakti, the focus will be on multimodal development, and I will take you into details a little while from now. Ab thodi der ruk jao, and I will take you into the detail of what is this multimodal. But idea is that when it comes to, the idea behind Gati Shakti is that when it comes to sectors like road, railway, port, airport, logistics, waterways, and mass transit, like a Delhi metro or rapid transit bus system, and mass transit. So remember, 1 road, 2 railway, 3 ports, 4 airport, 5 logistics, 6 waterways, and 7 mass transit. Remember, these are the 7 sectors government is targeting. Again, from prelims point of view becomes important. These are the 7 sectors government is targeting. Again, from prelims point of view, it becomes important. So from your prelims point of view, please remember these sectoral names. And जब भी अखबार में देखो इनको लेकर कोई पॉलिसी बनाए तो बस समझ ही गए आप तो अब कि prelims में उसका खतरा हमेशा ही है कि वो डालेंगे. So whenever you see there is a policy made on any of these sectors, jot it down. That is how they ask you questions in prelims. You see, last year in the budget, the finance minister announced on the permission to individuals to invest in government bonds, and RBI started creating structure on it. They asked it in prelims. The finance minister announced about reforming the cooperative banks, and the government took some steps on it. They asked it in prelims. So be very careful when the finance minister announces something in the budget, and when the action is taken on that announcement, they put it in the prelims exam. So that is one. That is that they put that multimodal development, Gati Shakti, is one thing that they are targeting among 4 priorities. Gati Shakti is the first thing that the government targets in its 4 priorities. So apart from Gati Shakti, apart from Gati Shakti, the idea is, again, remember, for those of you who don't know what is logistics, logistics is the facility of storage, packaging, measurement, grading, and so on. That is logistics. That is logistics. Packaging, storage, grading, and so on. That is logistics. And for those of you who don't know what is mass transit, अगली बार जब मेट्रो में बैठते हो तो समझ जाना तुम मास ट्रांजिट सिस्टम में बैठे हुए हो. बहुत सारे लोग एक साथ जब किसी एक व्हीकल से ट्रांजिट करें वो मास transit, so mass transit is that. Hyperloop बनाने की बात हो रही है अब, so hyperloop is another mass transit. So remember that. Okay, I hope I have clarified the points to you. Now coming back to the story for you, the second thing that the government is saying they will prioritize, the second thing that the government is saying that will be their priority will be inclusive development. Now we will discuss it. But again, from your prelims point of view, you keep it in mind. Inclusive development, that is development for all. Inclusive development means the benefits of growth reach all. Benefits of growth reach all. Everyone should be benefited by growth. That is your inclusive development. The third thing that the government says they will be using as a priority is the productivity enhancement, so productivity enhancement, and government says we will try doing this through investment in priority sector, investment in priority sector, that is sunrise sector. जब भी ये शब्द देखो, whenever you see this word sunrise sector, it is sector which is expected to grow faster in future. That is a sunrise sector. Sector which is expected to grow faster in future. That is your sunrise sector. So productivity enhancement through investment in priority sector, that is sunrise sector. So sector which is expected to grow faster in future. And then the fourth thing government says is financing this whole thing, financing development through increased capital expenditure, through increased capital expenditure. That is what is capex. The purpose is financing development through increased capital expenditure. And I will discuss this with you one by one, that how these priorities have been targeted in the budget and what is the basic idea. And we will devote around half an hour to the idea of increased capital expenditure also. We will devote ourselves to the idea of increased capital expenditure. कि उसके क्या pros हैं, क्या सरकार ने किया, क्या benefit होगा. So we will give some time to this, but that will come later, a little later. Right now, so I can believe you understand that these are the 4 priorities, that is developing Gati Shakti, inclusive development, productivity enhancement, and financing development through increased capital expenditure. Now, when you look at it, when you look at it, बिल्कुल railways भी mass transit है, बिल्कुल mass transit है, चिंता मत करना उसको लेकर. Now, when you look at it, corporate reforms are different things. They are not connected here, Srilata. Corporate reforms actually are reforming bringing reforms in your companies and their acts. One of you asked me which is the best economics book for UPSC. To be honest, there is none very good in the market as yet. Now see, grading matlab AgMark, ISI, Manisha. Grading means ISI, AgMark kind of a thing. Now see, when you look at this, when you look at this, these are the 4 basic ideas presented. Then we will now take it up like this. I am giving you the approach, please carefully understand it. Impact of budget on, one, infrastructure, because that is how you should prepare with UPSC in your mind. जब UPSC एग्जाम के लिए सोचते हो तो बजट को ऐसे अप्रोच करो, पर्सपेक्टिव बनाओ. When you prepare for UPSC exam, you should develop a perspective for budget. And what should be that perspective? Impact of budget on infrastructure. Second, impact of budget on, say, agriculture. Impact of budget for Make in India. Impact of budget for, say, inclusive growth. Impact of budget on environmental upgradation. Because they can ask you on any of these. And impact of budget on fiscal management, that what kind of fiscal deficit you have, current account deficit you have, revenue deficit you have, and so on. These 5-6 things you should consider when you talk impact of budget. And that is how I will try discussing things with you one by one when I am discussing with you the impact of budget. कि एक-एक करके देखेंगे कि ठीक है इन चीजों पे क्या असर रहा बजट का और क्या पॉलिसी बनी है. One by one we will check them, that what is the impact of budget on each of these, and what are the policies that have been made. So we will begin with infrastructure, and then we can go into a talk on agriculture, and then we can go into a talk on Make in India, and so on. तो एक एक करके शुरू करते हैं. तुम भी जब अपने आर्टिकल्स पढ़ते हो, अखबार पढ़ते हो, तो ये अप्रोच रखो, that impact of budget on various sectors, and 20 minutes, 15 minutes on each of these, and you should have 5-6 points on each of these. 5 से 6 point हर topic पे तुम्हारे पास होने चाहिए, और ये overlap करते हैं. For example, the green energy can affect environment as well as Make in India, as well as infrastructure. So there can be overlapping provisions in the budget, which you can write as points in each of these. There can be overlapping provisions in the budget which you can write as points in each of these. So please keep that also in your mind. You know that when you talk about it, then impact of budget in that case. Line of credit loans, I think you mean Shane Khan or Sher Khan. I think Shane Khan. So line of credit is a different topic altogether. I think you should not go that side. Board naughty हो रहा है, उसी सही कहा तुमने. It's going naughty without any doubt. Now let's see this, further. So when you look at the impact of budget, when you look at the impact of budget, this is the basic first idea to begin with, that how will it impact infrastructure and what are the steps taken to promote infrastructure in the budget. So let's try understanding this. steps taken in the budget to promote physical infrastructure. Steps taken in the budget to promote physical infrastructure. Physical infrastructure consists of transportation, power generation is electricity, and communication. Of course, we can also bring in urban development and rural development, but I would rather keep these points for inclusive growth. But इनके points भी infrastructure में आ सकते हैं, that steps taken for urban development and rural development, but I would rather believe that let's keep them for our inclusive growth. But whatever I teach you in inclusive growth on urban development or rural development, you can very well include them also with infrastructure. Let's now come into this. So when we talk about transport, that what are the steps taken in the budget regarding transport, so one is, but the budget has allocated, and that's a huge jump, allocated 1,99,000 crore for road development. Actually it is highway development. It is allocated mainly to National Highway Authority of India. So for highway development, allocated mainly to National Highway Authority of India, that it has allocated 1,99,000 crore for highway development, that is transport, and that is for National Highway Authority of India. In fact, 1,34,000 crore is for National Highway Authority of India. Again, you don't have to remember them entirely, but these are big allocations. That is why I am mentioning it for you. Again, in prelims, you never know. They try checking if we have taken care of it. National Highway Authority of India. So they are big allocations. So my suggestion is that no harm in keeping this in mind, that this is a big allocation increase. In fact, last year the budget had allocated 1,17,000 crore to the road transport sector. It is 1,99,000 crore for highway development. And the budget has a very ambitious plan, 25,000 kilometers of national highway development in the year 22-23. That's very ambitious. 25,000 kilometers of national highway development in the year 22-23. And they look at it because highway development will mean road construction, and that will mean employment generation, government buying steel, government buying construction material like bitumen and bricks, government buying coal, and all that will mean more business given to private sector, which can then enthuse them to invest more. That is the purpose of investing so much to begin with in highway development. That when government does this highway development, it results in better connectivity. That is one, of course. It results in connecting backward regions to better forward regions, which will mean the people in backward regions can grow, so inclusive growth. And it results in government's expenditure rising, and with the rise in government expenditure on purchasing goods for making these highways and employing workers in it, it will enhance the production levels in the economy by encouraging the private sector to invest. That is the key factor. So remember, the focus on highway development, this focus being there on highway development, again the objective is that through this focus you develop your your employment generation. Just to give you a basic idea, the objective here is to create a positive expectation by increasing demand and employment. The objective is to create a positive expectation by increasing demand and employment. That is the objective. अगर मैं सड़क बनाऊंगा, हाईवे बनाऊंगा, तो लोगों को नौकरी मिलेगी उस पे, जो लेबर होंगे, उसके ऊपर मैं स्टील खरीदूंगा, कोल खरीदूंगा, बिटुमेन खरीदूंगा, सीमेंट खरीदूंगा, मशीन लगाऊंगा. इससे जो लोग ये सप्लाई करते हैं उनका बिजनेस बढ़ेगा. उनका बिजनेस बढ़ेगा तो वो लोग खर्च करेंगे ज्यादा, वो अपने एम्प्लॉइज रखेंगे ज्यादा, और इससे इकोनॉमी में एक मल्टीप्लायर इफेक्ट क्रिएट होगा. इसी की चर्चा कल फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर कर रही थी. The finance minister was yesterday talking about multiplier effect, that multiplier effect gets created when government starts spending more, employing more people, and as there is more employment created, more expenditure done by the government, there is a positive expectation in the market regarding growth becoming higher and higher. That is one aspect of transportation. But that is not the only thing on road development. There is another thing on road development that the government is doing. A second thing on road development, 19,000 crore rupees have been given for Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. So this is to affect the rural economy, create jobs over there, for a positive effect on rural economy. Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, positive effect on rural economy. I am assuming that many of you will be having this knowledge. If not, then I am trying to give it to you, that Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana is in phase 3 at the moment. This Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana is in phase 3 at the moment. That is, it is focusing on not only road development, that of course it is focusing on, but also focusing on increased connectivity to school buildings, hospital, etc. And constructing these things also. तो अब प्रधानमंत्री ग्राम सड़क योजना का मतलब सिर्फ ये नहीं कि रोड डेवलपमेंट ही करना है, स्कूल बिल्डिंग, हॉस्पिटल, प्रमोशन ऑन दीज, ये सब भी आ गया. So that is another benefit that they are giving, 19,000 crore rupees on Prime Minister's Gram Sadak Yojana. That is another thing, that you are giving here. That is again a very good advantage, that comes in. Now see, when you look at this, I am sure we understand the idea here. When you look at this, this is your second impact that the government is creating. The third focus point is railways. Again, a big improvement on a big expenditure increase in railways. A very ambitious program that they are launching on railways. And then several things done on railways. So I'm taking you into that. The third thing that they are bringing up is on railways. So when you look at railways, if we take it as third point, mind you, I'm telling you all the steps majorly taken with respect to infrastructure. So railways, expenditure planned at 2,65,000 crore rupees, out of which budgetary support, that is government giving support through the budget, is around 1,37,000 crore rupees, which is the highest that the government has ever given the railways. 1,37,000 crore rupees, which is the highest that the government has ever given to the railways. That 2,65,000 crore rupees is the planned expenditure of the government for railways in the year 22-23, and out of this the budgetary support is going to be 1,37,000 crore rupees. And there are various things that they are planning in this. There are various things that they are planning in this. What they are planning is, so 1,37,000 crore as budgetary support. The government says that there will be 400 new Vande Bharat Express that will be introduced, and 100 of them will be introduced this year only, 75 of them, sorry. So 400 new Vande Bharat Express, they say version 2.0 for faster rapid transport. 400 new Vande Bharat Express is what they are planning, and they say that these Vande Bharat Express now will be developed not with steel engine but with aluminium engine. These Vande Bharat Express will now be developed not with steel engine but with aluminium engine. So aluminium engine, aluminium bogies, and that will mean that there will be lesser weight and they can carry more load and they will need less fuel. So rather than steel bodies, they will have aluminium bodies, and that will mean lesser weight and they can carry more load and they will use less fuel. So that is one point that the government says they are developing upon. Another one that they are saying they are bringing up is developing one platform, one product. That is another thing in railways that the government is bringing across, that they are developing one platform, one product. That is another thing that they are bringing in railways, that they are developing one platform, one product. One platform, one product to promote trade and manufacturing, including agro-based commodities. So remember, this can be a point even while writing an answer on steps taken to promote Make in India. जो भी चीज इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलपमेंट के लिए बात हो रही है, वो अपने आप एक पॉइंट बन जाता है मेक इन इंडिया के लिए भी. Whatever point you are writing for infrastructure development automatically becomes a point for Make in India. So to promote trade and manufacturing, including agricultural based commodities. Now see, budgetary support means the money that will be given through the budget. Other than that, the railway can also include money through the tickets that they sell, through the advertisements that they sell, through other services that they give to the consumers. I hope it clarifies your question. Some of you have asked me that how is planned expenditure different from budgetary support. So I hope all of you get the point, that it is about railways collecting money from other sources also, and through government support also. One product, one platform is, each platform in railway will be designated to transport and develop one product. So it's like developing one product in the region and then using railway to transport it to various market for possibilities. That is one product, one platform system under railways that we have gone for. So this is the third factor that comes in. This is the third thing on railways. In railways, they are also trying to develop, or the government has already said that they will be developing, a system of anti-collision developed indigenously in India called 𝐤𝐤𝐴𝐻. An anti-collision system developed indigenously in India called 𝐤𝐤𝐴𝐻. So that is another thing that they have developed in railways. 𝐤𝐤𝐻, an anti-collision system which automatically makes sure that trains don't collide, anti-collision system to be extended on more routes. अब पता है मैं क्या ट्राई कर रहा हूं? अगर आपको रेलवे पे पूछे कुछ तो आपके पास 50 वर्ड होने चाहिए या 40 वर्ड होने चाहिए. अगर रोड पे पूछें तो 40 वर्ड होने चाहिए, क्योंकि फिर आप उसकी एनालिसिस में 40-50 वर्ड लिखोगे तो आपके आंसर कंप्लीट होता रहता है. इंट्रोडक्शन 30 वर्ड्स, factuals 40 words, analysis 50 words, and then conclusion 35-40 words gives you a normal 1 to 50 word answer. That is the idea. So यही प्रैक्टिस करना है तुम्हें अपने मेंस के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से, कि इंट्रोडक्शन लिखो 30 वर्ड का, 25 वर्ड का, 40-45 वर्ड के फैक्ट्स हैं, 50 वर्ड की उसकी एनालिसिस है, 30 और उसके बाद 30 वर्ड का उसका कंक्लूजन है या 20 वर्ड का कंक्लूजन है. सो दीज आर द फैक्चुअल्स, एंड देन अगेन व्हाट इज द पर्पस? improving safety, improving connectivity, creating employment, developing indigenous manufacturing. These are the benefits of these. that improving the safety of people, improving production capacity of people, improving connectivity of people, promoting Make in India by indigenous manufacturing, developing indigenous technology. All this is the analysis of it, कि ये सब करके हम रेलवे की कैपेसिटी को भी और ज़्यादा बढ़ाना चाहते हैं. So that is the basic idea. That is the third point that I brought for you on railways. Now see, when you look at this, the other is, when you look at this, the other is that the government says that they will develop a unified logistic interface platform so that data exchange among all mode operators can take place. That is my fourth point for you in infrastructure support by the budget. That government will be development of a unified interface, one place where all data will be available. So development of unified logistics interface platform, unified logistics interface platform for data exchange and seamless. अगर seamless word अच्छा नहीं लगता तो smooth लिख लो. Transition from one mode to another. That's another thing that the government has tried doing in this, or at least have announced that they will be doing. Announced इसलिए कहता हूं मैं क्योंकि हम हर बजट में बहुत बातें बोलते हैं फिर उसको करना भूल जाते हैं कभी-कभी. But anyways, I will still be hopeful and I will assume that things will be nice for us. So development of unified logistics interface platform, that is to make sure that your data exchange among different modes of transport are there, and then all information is available and people can smoothly transition from one phase to another. In fact, the railways are also targeting to increase their share in bulk transport, and they are already targeting that they should be getting around 1,40,000 crore of business in the next 5 years. Also they are targeting a zero, a net zero level with respect to their participation. So there are various things that railways are up to already. Then apart from unified logistic interface, the factor there, the government also says that there will be open source mobility stack, that is more and more information to be developed, that there will be open source mobility stack. Now this open source mobility stack is giving the possibility that you can choose any transfer of passenger from one mode of transportation to another. So open source mobility stack for smooth transfer of passengers from one mode to another. Smooth transfer of passengers from one mode to another, कि आप अपने passengers को एक मोड से दूसरे पे ट्रांसफर कर सको, one mode to another, एक मोड से दूसरे पे ट्रांसफर कर सको बिना किसी दिक्कत के. एक साथ आप एक transfer ले लो. For example, the way we are developing the Eastern Dedicated Freight Corridor, that you can book your commodity and it can use railways to move from Ludhiana to, say, Banaras, and then from Banaras to Haldia it can go via, or Ludhiana to Prayagraj. From Prayagraj it can be transported to Banaras via roadways, and from Banaras to Haldia via waterways. So that is multimodal system of transportation, कि आप एक जगह बुकिंग कर लो और एक मोड से दूसरे मोड वो अपने आप शिफ्ट हो जाएगा और बिना दिक्कत के आप चीपर रेट पे बेस्ट पॉसिबिलिटी के साथ अपनी कमोडिटी या खुद को या पैसेंजर को ट्रांसपोर्ट कर सकते हो. So that is the idea. And then the government also says, that there has to be that, or there will be 4 multimodal logistic parks which will be accorded in 2022-23 itself. 4 multimodal logistics park to be accorded in 22-23 itself. 4 multimodal logistic parks to be accorded for contract and development in 22-23. All these is with respect to transportation. ये जितने भी points आपने लिखे ये सभी transportation से connected हैं. All these points that you are talking is transportation. Mind you, when we use this word multimodal logistic park, when we use this word multimodal logistic park means, please be careful, this means a hub and spoke model of development. Hub and spoke model of development. And what is this hub and spoke model of development? A simplistic idea. The idea here is, when you talk hub and spoke model of development, the idea here is that you develop a logistical park. ये आप एक develop करो. यहाँ facility of transportation or transport connectivity by all modes. सारे methods से, railway, roadway, airway, waterway, सभी modes. So multimodal is that idea. When you use the word multimodal, that is all modes of transport. That facility you create, and facility of transport connectivity, and along with that you give the facility of grading like ISI mark, AG mark, ISO 9002, 9003, packaging, etc. All of these, weighing, all storage, all these facilities you give at one place. ये सारी facility एक जगह पर दो और उसके बाद वहां से connectivity बन जाएगी अपने आप to various places all over India. Give this facility all across, and from there you develop yourself to move all over India, or at least in the nearby zones. That is a hub and spoke model. This is the hub which will develop one place, and then various spokes through connectivity. एक hub बनेगा और वहां से बहुत सारे spokes निकलेंगे मल्टी मॉडल कनेक्टिविटी से, जहां से वाटर से जोड़ पाओगे वाटर से, जहां रोड से जोड़ पाओगे रोड से, जहां मल्टी मॉडल रिक्वायर्ड है मल्टी मॉडल. So whatever you need, you connect it in that manner, and that ways you will reduce the cost of transportation, cost of storage. You will make it easier for people to connect buyers and sellers, and all that will reduce your cost of doing business, and that is the objective of doing this. So this is for transportation in infrastructure, and the major thrust of the budget this year has been on transportation in infrastructure. The major part here is developed by transportation in infrastructure. So this is one aspect created. That is one aspect that it is creating. Now see, when you look at it, the other is, when we talk further, the other is when you talk about energy sector, that how do you make sure that you have an energy sector, that how do you make sure that you have an energy sector that grows equally well. Now see, there are 3-4 steps taken on energy and 3-4 on communication. So energy sector, power sector development, 3-4 steps taken there, and 3-4 for communication. Yes, why not? Center periphery model, Adra, you can say that. It is like mega food park, Sushant, you can say that. Regarding inequality, we will discuss. Regarding inequality, we will surely discuss. All right, don't worry at all. Because Nishant, I'm answering your question that EDFC is from Ludhiana to Dhankuni, but it is cheaper sometimes to carry a huge bulk via waterways rather than roadways. An open source mobility stack is creating an information network in the system where everybody has accessibility to knowledge about how you can change the system. That is the open source mobility system. All right, that is the aspect of it. All right, now let's see this again. The unified logistic interface is one place where all information about all logistical support will be available. Now see, other than that, there are developments done, and that is again something important. There are developments done. So we come to energy sector. This is in physical infrastructure. First thing we discussed was transport. Then the second is when we discuss energy sector. The first thing we discussed was transport. The second thing we discussed is energy sector. Now when you look at the energy sector, it is okay. So one of you, Dipanshu, you asked me data exchange in railway. It is actually data exchange across all mode of transports. Another is, I hope you heard me on ULIP, Shrikant. That is a method of making sure that you create one interface where everybody has possibility of exchange of data on multi-mode of transport. Now see, in energy sector, one thing that the government has done, provisioning rupees 19,500 crore for production linked incentive to develop solar energy storage and transmission capacity. Provisioning 19,500 crore for production linked incentive to develop solar energy storage and transmission capacity. All right, that is 19,500 crore developed for that, given for that, and ranging from polysilicon to photovoltaic cell, developing the polysilicons to photovoltaic cell. So सारे डेवलपमेंट की कोशिश की जा गई है इससे कि प्रोडक्शन लिंक्ड इंसेंटिव स्कीम बनाई जाए, attracting companies by offering them subsidies to develop photovoltaic cells, polysilicon method of development, solar panels and all in India. So that is one thing for clean energy development that the government talks about. The second thing the government has talked about is incentivizing coal gasification and development of industrial chemicals from coal to improve India's carbon footprint. That's again a good thing that they have introduced, that incentivize coal gasification and development of industrial chemicals from coal to improve India's carbon footprint, so that your coal becomes cleaner and you can use this energy with a more cleaner source of technique rather than what we did earlier. Then the other is, the other is when you look at it, the other is when they talk about the development of promoting electrical vehicles by allowing for battery swapping policy and reducing import duty on various inputs manufacturing those batteries. So remember, that's another thing that has been introduced. C, promoting e-vehicles by announcing the intention to develop framework for battery swapping, because you know in urban areas the land available is already low, so it is difficult to put filling stations, electrical charging stations at all place. So in urban areas it becomes difficult to put charging stations in all place, and government had already proposed that big buses can use this battery swapping, which they use many places, that they bring the used up battery and in exchange they take the new charged battery and then they move ahead. So that will mean that your requirement of too many charging stations will be reduced, and this battery swapping policy will reduce the cost of traveling and the inconvenience for people. And proposal to reduce import duty on inputs used in e-vehicles, and already we have a production linked incentive scheme going on for it. So that is the other thing done with respect to energy sector. That is the other thing done with respect to energy sector. Remember one more thing, there is one more announcement in transportation. I'm sorry, I forgot telling you that. There is one more announcement in transportation that you should keep in mind. That is about Parvatmala. There is another announcement in transportation. Please keep it in mind. That is about Parvatmala. And in Parvatmala, the idea is to begin with, there will be ropeway developed with public-private partnership, and 1900 crore rupees have been earmarked for this. Earmark करने का मतलब उसको रखना, उतना amount निर्धारित करना. So 1900 crore rupees has been earmarked for it. So Parvatmala, yeah, thank you. I see it in the chat box now. You remind me about Parvatmala here. So thank you for reminding it. Some of you, I see you have written it about Parvatmala. So yes, I forgot, but I thankfully I keep it in mind there. Now see, coming back to the energy sector, another is that the government has promoted, as has suggested, that developing pellets of biomass to encourage farmers to earn some income, and developing it as a source of energy. So that is another thing that the government has promoted. Another thing that the government has promoted. That is when you look at it, the idea is that you develop pellets of biomass for thermal power plants. So two more things here. One is pellets of biomass, and all this, this you can use also for environmental impact of the budget. For thermal power project, pellets of biomass for thermal power project, which can contribute to farmers' income and as well as cleaner source of technology. And another is that putting a tax on unblended fuel. अगर आप unblended fuel बेच रहे हो, because the government allows the fuel to be blended with ethanol, so putting a tax on unblended fuel, that is another thing that they are bringing up. That is another thing that they are bringing up. So this is what they bring across on energy sector, and we can expect some more to come in on this. So, but then right now on energy, these are the 4 or 5 points that you can keep in mind. Mind you, in Gati Shakti, the finance minister has also announced that she will be creating, cargo transport in the next 3 years with 300 cargo transportation system, but that gets covered in multimodal, so I did not write it again for you. जो cargo in transportation की बात कर रहे हैं वो multimodal logistics में अपने आप ही covered है, तो मैंने दोबारा उसकी बात नहीं की आपसे. And then there has been a talk on energy, on communication system. For communication purpose, this is the third among all sources of physical infrastructure, communication development. And keep them in mind, I again repeat, from both prelims and mains point of view. In mains they can ask you only transport or only energy or only communication, and sometimes you may have to write a 150-word answer. So this should help you in writing that answer up much better, you know. So when you look at this, in communication, the government has announced 5G rollout. So announcement of spectrum allocation. The government says they are fully prepared now with this, and rollout of 5G technology and using production linked incentive. I see one of you have asked me about production linked incentive in the chat box. But unfortunately, you know, this is not the place I can take you into details of it. But in case you want to know basics of it, the idea is that production linked incentive is a subsidy scheme started by the government of India, in which the government will give a subsidy of 4% to 6% to any manufacturer. The government will give subsidy of 4% to 6% to any manufacturer, you know, in this production linked incentive scheme, you know, who completes the sales target within the stipulated time period. जो भी उत्पादक अपने 5 साल या 4 साल के stipulated time period में अपने sales target को meet करेगा प्रोड्यूस करके, सरकार उसे 4 से 6% of project cost subsidy में देगी. That is the easiest way to keep in mind the production linked incentive scheme. And using production linked incentive to facilitate production of 5G equipments. So that is one thing done in this scheme. That is one thing to promote communication. 5G, mind you, is about developing more on Internet of Things, business to business communication, promoting more, more new technology like 3D techniques for product development. All this can be done using the 5G technique. Now see, when you look at it, the other thing that the government has also promoted is that 5% of total collection, 5% of total collection, and this is again a good step that they have done, because that is the best way to promote overall communication service. That is 5% of annual collection of Universal Service Obligation Fund, total collection annually of Universal Service Obligation Fund, that is USOF. Universal Service Obligation Fund. So 5% of total collection annually of Universal Service Obligation Fund. और ये Universal Service Obligation Fund जो है, ये सरकार क्रिएट करती है, from the annual gross revenue that they get from the telecoms. This USOF, अगर by chance आप uninitiated हो, जो कि chances हैं कि हो सकते हो, तो आप याद रखना that this USOF is 8% of total annual gross revenue shared by telecoms. So the telecommunication companies, they give annual gross revenue to the government. ये आपको मुझे उम्मीद है ध्यान में भी होगा. अभी वोडाफोन आइडिया को लेकर ये काफी न्यूज़ में भी था that they had a huge outstanding amount on annual gross revenue. So 5% of total collection annually of Universal Service Obligation Fund, which is 8% of total annual gross revenue shared by telecoms, will be devoted for rural development of communication. This will be devoted for rural development, that will be allocated there. So for broadband and mobile service proliferation in rural areas. So will be devoted for mobile phone and broadband connectivity to rural areas. That is another thing that will be done, that 5% of total collection annually of Universal Service Obligation Fund will be given for the purpose of developing mobile phones and broadband connectivity to rural areas. So that is another factor that the budget is targeting. The other factor they are targeting, apart from these, is that the government has said that the contract for laying optic fiber cable in all villages, including remote areas, will be awarded in this year's budget. The contract for giving will be awarded in the coming fiscal year. So that is another welcome step regarding communication, that the government says contract for developing broadband connectivity will be awarded for all rural areas in this year's budget. So they say that ways BharatNet will be completed by 2025. Now that's a sorry part, because we had targeted it to be completed by 2019 first, then we extended it to 22, and now we have extended it to 25. So we have said that BharatNet will be completed by 2025, with everybody getting broadband connectivity, or every village having accessibility to broadband connectivity, which can help in good education, healthcare, etc. development all over. So, these are the basic things you can keep in mind on infrastructure development that comes in. There are 2-3 loopholes that ideally the government should have covered it in its budget projection. Finance Minister की speech में मैं मान सकता हूँ, चलो सारी बात नहीं बोल सकते, वो 1.5-2 घंटे काफ़ी होते हैं बोलने के लिए. But mainly the budget paper should have had the details of 2-3 things that are missing. So these are all good projections, whether it is road, railway, airport waterway development, or whether it is power sector, or whether communication. But there are few things missing link that I am highlighting to you, missing points in the budget, or challenges not addressed in the budget. 1, seasonal shortage of coal, especially for power sector. अभी पिछले साल भी आपको ध्यान होगा, ये समाचार में था कि कोल की सीजनल शॉर्टेज हो जाती है. मॉनसून के बाद हर साल की कहानी होती है कि कोल नहीं मिलता पावर सेक्टर को, और हमें एनर्जी क्राइसिस झेलनी पड़ती है. सो वी डोंट गेट कोल फॉर पावर सेक्टर एंड वी फेस एनर्जी क्राइसिस. दिस इज वन थिंग दैट द बजट डिडंट टॉक अबाउट, एज इफ इट डजंट एग्जिस्ट. सो दैट वाज वन प्रॉब्लम दैट वी सी. वी डोंट टॉक अबाउट इट, और वी हैव नॉट टॉक्ड अबाउट इट इन आवर बजट. होपफुली वी विल टॉक अबाउट इट आउटसाइड द बजट, एंड वी कैन थिंक अबाउट हाउ टू improve upon it. Second, growing impact of single service providers in power distribution. Adani Power controls 102 cities now in India for power distribution functions, distribution and transmission of course. सिर्फ डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन नहीं, कहीं कहीं पे ट्रांसमिशन भी करते हैं, डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन नहीं करते, ट्रांसमिशन करते हैं. So growing impact of single service providers in power distribution and transmission, which creates the threat of monopoly or single firm dominance. We need to address this. More competition is what we need. अगर आप कहोगे सर करना क्या चाहिए इसके लिए? इसके लिए स्टोरेज करना चाहिए, स्टोरेज डेवलपमेंट, प्लान योर रिक्वायरमेंट ऑफ कोल एंड स्टोरेज डेवलपमेंट शुड डू. और इसके लिए more competition to be introduced by encouraging startups and decentralizing power procurement. अब ये decentralizing power procurement क्या होता है? अलाउ करो पावर जनरेशन कंपनीज को कि वो खुद ही अपना प्रोड्यूस इलेक्ट्रिसिटी रेजिडेंट वेलफेयर एसोसिएशन तक को बेच सकें. So more competition to be introduced and decentralize the power procurement. Otherwise, these two issues remain and we are not resolving it. We are not saying anything in the budget regarding this. So again, okay, somebody can say, why should the finance minister speak on everything? Fair enough. But then these are policy related issues, and since budget is related to policy determination, no harm in speaking about it. So these are two things to begin with: challenges not addressed in the power sector. Challenges not addressed in the power sector. Then, there are certain challenges not addressed again. There are certain challenges not addressed again. Third, lack of timely completion of port development project due to lack of financing facilities in Sagarmala. This is something that the government can address, that how can you give timely facility of financing in Sagarmala so that completion of port development doesn't suffer. Mainly this has been happening on eastern ports of India, Outer Paradeep and Haldia port, all these places where infrastructure development had been promised much earlier. Unfortunately, the completion of port development has not happened on time because of the lack of financing facilities that Sagarmala required. This is again something we need to be careful about, and it would have been better if budget had taken this up and talked about it. That could have been much better. Another is very high operating ratio of Indian Railways. That is another thing that budget should highlight, and we should have a discussion on it. Very high operating ratio. It is almost 98%. Operating ratio 98%. ऑपरेटिंग रेशियो का मतलब होता है आप कितने पैसे खर्च करते हो 1 रुपया कमाने के लिए. तो इंडियन रेलवेज 98% या 98 रुपीस खर्च करके 100 रुपीस कमाती है. Spending 98 rupees, they are able to earn 100 rupees. That means only 2 rupees left over. How will they plan to modernize, to invest better, for safety precautions? So this is the problem of high operating ratio in Indian Railways. not talked about much. So budget should have planned it, and there should have been a talk about, Indian Railways to be reduced. There should have been a talk about how do we plan to reduce this very high operating ratio in Indian railway system. So these are certain things. And then one more thing we did not talk about in the budget was provisioning for losses of telecom. See, one thing in telecom that the government has done, just to add to it, I'm sorry again I missed on that, but I will add it here, that apart from everything else in telecom, one more thing that the government has done it, you please add it as the fourth point in telecom, is provisioned 44,000 crore rupees for BSNL to let them have funds for 4G license. So that's another thing that the government has done. Almost 44,000 crore rupees has been provisioned for BSNL to let them have funds for 4G licensing. That is another thing that the government has done in the budget. So that is another thing to keep in mind. But another point that we see in the budget, another point that we see in the budget, missing is high taxation of fuel continues. That is the other point that we see, that air turbine fuel is still taxed at a very high rate, which discourages aviation sector, So these are the challenges in the budget. Reduce this, reduce railways high operating ratio, and this can be reduced by making railway charges better and by asset monetization. The budget, they were stung so badly by the farm protest कि इस बार डर के मारे एसेट मोनेटाइजेशन, पब्लिक सेक्टर रिफॉर्म चर्चा ही नहीं हुई हमारे बजट में उसकी. फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर ने बोला छोड़ो भाई, ये सब बात करेंगे, लोग हमें बोलते हैं ये अमीरों की सरकार है, हम चर्चा ही नहीं करेंगे पब्लिक सेक्टर रिफॉर्म्स की. बट यू नीड दिस मनी, वी नीड एसेट मोनेटाइजेशन इन रेलवेज to make sure that railway can recover itself better. Similarly, asset monetization in port development to pay for Sagarmala project. So all this will be needed, and that is what our suggestion should be, that in infrastructure we have done some work, but if we want Gati Shakti model and we want overall infrastructure development, we will have to make sure that this part also has a good role to play in it. That is the aspect of budget development. The railway minister has said that by force, Aditi, actually. They don't have a choice, in that. Well, the alternative can be monetization, Ujjwal, to begin with. Well, the management of railways has already been quite reduced to a great extent, or made leaner and thinner to a great extent, Gautam. So remember, when you look at, this is provisioning for losses of telecom of private sector. आयुषी, उम्मीद है अब समझ जाओगे कि वोडाफोन आइडिया के अंदर जो सरकार इक्विटी ले रही है, वो सरकार को लेने की जरूरत नहीं होनी चाहिए थी ideally. The private sector losses, well, what the government could have done is they should have asked Vodafone to pay it back over a longer period of time. But taking equity in Vodafone idea, again, ideally not suited in a system where you would like it to be market driven. I hope, Ayushi, you understand that point. So, I will now say a bye-bye to you here. कल यहीं से चर्चा शुरू करेंगे और बाकी के बजट के एस्पेक्ट्स को खत्म करेंगे. कल की क्लास शायद मुझे 15-20 मिनट स्ट्रेच करनी पड़े, तो मैं जानता हूं कि आप लोग अच्छे लोग हो और मेरा साथ दोगे ही. तो मैं कल 7 बजे मिलता हूं आपसे. Today I will leave you here. Have a great life, and tomorrow at 7 we will complete rest of the things on budget, including few specific things on prelims exam. Bye bye. Have a great evening. Study great. Thanks a lot for being here. It's actually wonderful interacting with you on a YouTube. Thank you. Bye bye. See you tomorrow 7 o'clock. कल 7 बजे फिर मिलते हैं. Bye bye. Thank you all of you. Thanks a lot.